Last week, William Ruto handed Emmanuel Macron coffee, tea, and a sculpture of the wild beast migration. But this was not just a gift exchange. This was a mirror of Africa's betrayal. I mean, take a look at coffee, where 70% of our farmers earn cents, while foreign companies resell it for fortunes. And then you have tea, plucked on stolen land, still enriching multinationals, while workers remain poor. If you have ever been rich because of coffee and tea, please tell me. And then you have the Mara. You know, they will tell us the Maasai Mara is our pride, our heritage, and they have completely turned this place into a spectacle for the world. But as the wild beast ran free, you have the Maasai people who once roamed that land with their cattle, and now they are completely fenced out, evicted in the name of conservation. And they are there watching as these luxury lodges rise where their homes once stood. And who goes ahead to receive these gifts? Macron. Macron is a representative of a country that has drained Africa for generations. You have him powering his own cities with Niger's uranium, filling their refineries with African oil, and they are there sweetening their tables with West African cocoa. And this moment right here between Macron and William Ruto was not pride. This was humiliation. This is Ruto wrapping a gift for a colonizer. Let's break this down. Let's start with coffee. So guys, you can get why we cannot continue acting the way we are acting. When people think about Kenya, they think about coffee. For decades, coffee has been sold to the world as the pride of this country. But here is the shocking truth. Most Kenyans don't see, or most Kenyans will not be told. Coffee stopped being our pride a long time ago. Let's start here. I said about 70% of Kenya's coffee comes from smallhold farmers. Not big corporations, not giant estates, but ordinary men and women. People who farm a few acres, sometimes less than even an acre. They will do all the work. They will plant, they will prune, they will pick every cherry by hand. And yet, when that coffee leaves their hands, it also leaves their control, because the system is designed that way. If you are a small farmer dreaming of roasting your beans and putting your own label on it, the rules will shut the door in your face. To qualify for a full roasting or processing license, you are often required to have at least 15 acres of coffee. I mean, you must have a land somewhere, 15 acres or more. Please tell me how many farmers you know who have 15 acres lying around planting coffee. Most people don't even reach 5 acres. So right from the start, majority of these farmers are locked out of the very thing that would give them power. And this thing is value addition. I spoke to a coffee farmer. Guys, when I was even researching for this conversation, I personally did not know that for you to qualify for a roasting license, because coffee for us is not valuable if we are just talking about the cherries. It's the end product that matters here. But even for you to qualify for a license, oh boy, you need 15 acres. 15 acres of a farm full of coffee, so that you can be able to move your coffee from the cherries, you roast them, and maybe you go on and make the powdered coffee, because that is where the money is, right? Again, even if you have this land, the whole license thing is brutal. Of course, we are talking about KEB standards, NEMA approvals, occupational safety inspections, county permits, KRA clearance, all those things. And even this person that I was talking about told me, Lynn, man, I have all this, but I have not even gotten my license. I'm like 5 months behind when it comes to me getting a license. So this is not even about those people who have a 50 by 80 or a 50 by 100, even someone who can qualify for that license. The county government makes sure you suffer before they can even give you that license. And they will tell you, you know, this is easy because we are just doing the whole regulation thing. But in reality, what these people have done is that they've created an entire wall that keeps the smallholder farmer where the colonial system left them, as a supplier of raw material for someone else's wealth. No, they don't want Kenyans going the extra step of value addition. No, they don't want that. They want to make sure you continue existing the way the colonial masters left you. The way those people left you, as someone who only takes the raw materials to the cooperatives. And then the cooperatives are the ones who are going to benefit and then come back in the name of a bonus here and there. But I want us to follow the money. Let us see how much farmers are actually paid. A farmer in Kenya will be paid around 80 to 100 shillings per kilo of cherry. This is less than $1. By the time those cherries are processed into green beans and exported, the same kilo they sold for under $1 is going for about how much? $8 to $10 at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. So you see here, the farmer has already lost the lion's share because I'm the one with the product. I'm the one with the cherries. So I bring them and you take now them away from me because me I don't qualify or I cannot be given this license. So me, you pay me $1. And then you go and broker my coffee. For how much? $8 to $10. But you see, let's not even worry about the cooperatives. Let's go to where the real transformation happens. And this is abroad. Because once those beans land in Europe, France, or America, they are roasted, branded, and sold at retail. I promise you guys, here we just do the donkey's work. And then they will package these beans and roast them, take them outside. And you know how much they are going to sell it? 1 kilo of roasted Kenyan AA coffee in Paris, New York, or those other places will fetch you around $20 to $30 and even more. Let me show you, because I went on Instagram and I asked some of our audience to send us actually real images of how much Kenyan coffee is going at in the countries they are. So what you're seeing in the screen, a couple of, images here and there of how much coffee is going for. Someone even told me they are buying Kenyan coffee for 50 euro. 50 euros and you guys gave me $1. Huh? No, it's actually 50 euros. It's actually 50 euros. And you guys, you gave me $1 for my coffee. So you can see the images right there. Different prices for different Kenyan coffee. And they will also package this coffee as specialty or single origin. So they are telling you, we can follow where we've sourced this coffee. And this one is actually really special. We can actually follow it, even the way it was farmed and picked. So now this coffee, now imagine by the time it's brewed into cups, that same kilo of coffee beans can generate over $80 to $100 in sales. When I was working in a coffee shop, if you make the espressos or whatever, you use around 18 to 20 grams. So you can imagine how many 20 grams are in a kilo. And then someone will come and buy a double cappuccino for maybe $8. So you can imagine by the time you're done with that 1 kilo of making different coffees, the lattes, all these cappuccinos, the Americanos, remove the cost of the milk, etc., the ones you will pay the staff. This coffee alone will give you $100 in profit. But the farmer here will earn under $1 per kilo of sherry. Let's stop playing with each other. The farmer earns that. The exporter earns $4 to $6 per kilo of those green beans. And then the foreign roaster and retailer will walk away with $20 to $100 from the same kilo. That is the structure. That is why coffee is no longer Kenya's pride. It is actually Kenya's wound. We do the hardest, dirtiest work. We nurture the trees. You go on war with those pests. And then you carry sacks to the factory. But the sweetest part of the story, the branding, the roasting, the cup of that coffee in diaspora belongs to someone else. And yet every year, the government will come and tell farmers, plant more coffee. We are planting more coffee for who? And for what? If the rules won't let the smallholder farmers roast their coffees, I mean, if the market won't let them sell directly, and if the money keeps flowing out, then all we are actually doing here as farmers, we are feeding a pipeline where foreign companies win and Kenyans lose. No. And that is why when Ruto is out there gifting coffee to Macron, this may look like national pride. Kenya, we are known for coffee. But then if you look closer, it is the perfect symbol of colonial exploitation. Dressed up in modern clothes, this is Kenyan coffee. And here's the most glaring failure. Kenya alone, our pride is coffee, but we do not even have our own large-scale soluble coffee factory. This is where instant coffee is made. The kind, I mean, if you take coffee, instant coffee, that smooth powdered coffee, the kind most of the world actually drinks. So we can't even afford that. The hub of Africa's pride, Africa's best coffee. We can't afford that. But you want to keep telling farmers here, continue growing more coffee. So what happens when we lack such industries? We will continue exporting raw beans to these foreign countries, and they will continue processing it into instant coffee and then rebrand it and then ship it back to Africa. Even sometimes here in Kenya, they will ship it back to us and we will pay 3 times the price. We actually buy back what we grew because the walls are there by design. When I was talking to this person, he asked me, Lynn, kwani what is so hard with us selling coffee the way we sell our tomatoes, our avocados, our waru? Because they know the moment this farmer knows that the money is right there in the value addition, then these people who benefit from African farmers or Kenyan farmers who continue taking raw materials to cooperatives, watachanuka. And they will stop and they will now start packaging their own coffee. Well, why can't a license be for 1 acre? Why do you need me to have 15 acres for you to give me a license? Because from the word go, barely, people in this country cannot even afford a 50 by 100 piece of land. They cannot. Majority of the people are saving for years just to purchase a 50 by 100 to build a home. Now 15 acres. And we all know the coffee farms who they belong to. Majority of the coffee is actually still planted on stolen land. Or land where we achieved our independence and the land was still given to the elites. You people in your own circle, who benefits from this coffee. And that is why a normal farmer cannot be encouraged to understand value addition. You'll have this whole government also launching the Coffee Cherry Advance Fund and the direct settlement system to help farmers get paid faster. Yes, we can get paid faster as coffee farmers, but the government is never ready to touch on the real issue. Ownership of processing. Ownership of processing. Because even if the farmers are now getting paid more quickly, but they are still only being paid for the raw cherries, the raw materials. The higher margins, the branding, the jobs in roasting and packaging, those are still left to foreigners. And every year the government will come here and boast and say, our coffee earnings have increased. Like it's a badge of honor. Actually, let's take a look. In 2023, Kenya earned about $3 or $4 million from coffee exports. Good money, right? Sounds big, right? That's roughly 46 billion shillings, Kenya shillings. And you have the politicians here thumping their chest and calling this a success story. But again, in this show, we are learning to look at things not from a broader perspective. We gotta look deeper. Almost all of that coffee, over 95%, left Kenya as raw material. No roasting, no packaging, no instant coffee, just raw materials that was shipped off in sacks. That is us getting over $40 billion just from raw materials. And here's the painful truth. When this coffee now goes and value is added, the value addition, the roasting, the packaging, the names, and then they sell it there abroad, can you imagine how much we are talking about? That value, that $40 billion multiplies, sometimes 5 to even 10 times. Let me break this down for you, right? Walk with me. A kilo of green beans at the auction, say that fetches $5. Are we together? Now do the value add. That same kilo will give you $25 to $30, right? After you roast and you package. Now, brew it into cups. We said it will give you what? $80 to $100. Here's the math. If Kenya had the capacity to value add on our coffee, that $3 or $4 million in export earning could easily be 1.5 to 2 billion US dollars. Is that a small gap? That is not a small gap. That is actually money equal to us building hospitals, paying teachers, reducing debt, marking our roads. But have you ever wondered why this country has a tendency of building roads and they make sure they don't mark the roads? But I think if you get the money from coffee and you do right by the farmers, that coffee will give you good money for you to do this, even if you say you don't have the budget. But now imagine who pockets that difference, because we are talking about from $300 million. That is what we get just by shipping our own raw materials. And we are saying if we were able to do this, we could actually cash in 2 billion USD. Kai, munajua 1.5 to 2 billion USD ni pesa ngapi? Do you know how much money that is? But who pockets that difference? Who pockets that money that Kenya is supposed to be pocketing? The multinationals. These multinationals that that go and do the value addition. They buy our beans very cheap and then ship them to their places, do the value addition, package them, and then they make fortunes in the name of our own coffee. Imagine we are not just exporting our coffee in raw form. We are also exporting wealth. We are actually enriching people who just sit there and package our coffee nicely. And this is not new. This is colonial logic that has simply been rebranded. Back then, when Africans were banned from processing coffee, they could only grow it. Just grow it and give us the raw materials. Okay, today, farmers are not banned, but you will be blocked by these impossible requirements of 15 acres, yada, licenses, etc., etc. You will be blocked. Actually, you are designed to fail from the word go. So, we can't keep saying coffee is our pride. It is not our pride. Let us not say coffee is our pride. Let's move to another one. Tea. Tea is another Kenya's pride that barely pays us. So when Ruto is there, I'm avoiding naming the tea, but you saw him handing that tea to Macron again. Again, it's Africa's pride. Tea is our pride, After all, Kenya is one of the largest tea exporters in the world. If you are shocked about coffee, wait until you get shocked now about tea. They'll tell us tea is our jewel, our green gold. But just like coffee, once you peel off this glossy wrapper, the truth is very bitter. Kenya earns more in tea than in coffee. We actually earn about 1.2 to 1.3 billion a year from tea exports. That is nearly 4 times what coffee gives us, right? Again, your politicians will go and they will use this figure as a success. They'll tell you this is proof of success. But this is what they will not tell you. The wealth will not stay with the people who actually touch the tea. Because who really owns Kenya's tea? Who owns Kenya's tea? If you are in Bomet, Kericho, or Nandi, please tell me who owns those tens of thousands of hectares of tea. Are they not controlled by multinationals? Unilever Tea, now a Cathedral, James Finley, you guys, this is very familiar, which this group was recently acquired by a private equity group, but still foreign owned. Williamson Tea. Me, I'm looking for a Cheptang Tea or Kosgei Tea. Where is it? Huh? Kenya's tea is actually owned by multinationals. And these companies were born out of colonial land grabs. Land where communities, especially the Kipsigis and Talai, were displaced. To this day, descendants of those families still demand compensation. Even in the UN, there is a matter where these communities are demanding compensation for the land that was stolen from their ancestors. Yet, funny thing, these estates continue remaining under foreign hands, and their profits are wired abroad. I swear I want to repeat the same thing about coffee. Most Kenyan tea still leaves the country raw. And then they will sell it through Mombasa Tea Auction, which is the largest in the world, where middlemen and brokers, the exporters will scoop it up, blend it, and ship it overseas. And once again, Kenya is exporting leaves. Well, the real money will be made in London, Dubai, Moscow, all those other places, where they do the blending, the branding, and retail. And numbers don't lie. A kilo of black Kenyan tea, they call this the CTC tea, at the auction will sell for about $5 to $10. Then go and do what we did with coffee, brand it, and retail it in a supermarket in Europe. That same kilo will earn you $20 to $30. Now, do the same thing with coffee, brew it in cups, have people, I'm drinking Kenyan tea. It's good. Have you tried? Have you tried Kenyan tea? In it. Man, I'm not even sure whether this is that great coffee I'm drinking. At this rate, I just think all the nice things leave, and as we get mabakisho. But again, do the same things. You brew this coffee and this tea, put them into cups, sell them in this, I don't want to name names, but you guys, where you go and get your coffee and tea from. And just a kilo of us doing this, or give me some black tea. Yeah, you put it there. A kilo gives these people again another $120. So we are here celebrating 1.2 billion in export earnings. But if we processed and branded the tea here, this tea could easily bring us 6 to 8 billion USD. That is the money we are giving away every single year. And also now, say we get our 1.2 billion. How many of that trickles down to the farmers? Peanuts. Smallholder farmers under the Kenya Tea Development Agency, KTDA, often they will earn less than 20 shillings per kilo of green leaf after deductions. You are still deducting. Some will also receive the annual bonuses so small that it cannot even cover school fees for their children. And when I was talking to a couple of farmers yesterday, they were telling me, Lynn, Kenyans are blinded by bonuses. Someone learns that they are going to receive a bonus of like 10K. My friend, they forget the value addition. So here we are celebrating bonuses that are just peanuts. Meanwhile, the multinationals are reporting profits in tens of millions of dollars. Even worse, labor on the big tea estates has been marred by scandals, from low wages to reports of sexual exploitation of women workers. You watched that documentary by BBC? You watched that. So while the world is out here sipping Kenyan tea with elegance, the very people who pick it continue living in poverty, often without basic dignity. And here is where the government fails. Instead of aggressively pushing Kenyan branded tea into global markets, it continues to defend the auction system that keeps farmers at the bottom. Instead of breaking up the monopolies, it bends to their power, to their colonizers. You know, instead of our own governments building factories that package, brand, and market our own tea globally, it will settle for exporting bulk in raw materials and then come and call this success. So let's be brutally honest here. Kenya does not export tea. Kenya exports poverty, dressed up as tea. We said the numbers here might look a bit shiny, 1.2 billion. But the wealth is captured abroad. You know? What could have been schools, hospitals, jobs, and dignity is brewed in cups of teas in these countries, leaving as crumbs behind for the farmers in these places. So, when Ruto once again gifts Macron a packet of Kenya's tea, this is not a gift of pride. It is a reminder of how Kenya still plays the same role it did under the colonial rule. What did we say? Supply the raw materials while someone else is out there cashing in on the final product. We will not rejoice. Kenya and coffee stopped being our pride long time ago. Long time ago. And it's disappointing, guys. But let's go to our final gift. And I love talking about tourism in this country. Wild beast migration. Hey, guys, you saw your president gifting this guy a sculpture of wild beast migration in the Maasai Mara.
You know the migration? Wild beast migration? With crocodiles, and this is a yearly phenomenon between Kenya and Tanzania.
It was presented as a celebration of Kenya's biggest tourism jewel. You know, that annual spectacle where over 1.5 million wild beasts, the zebras, gazelles, all these things cross the Mara River. The world calls this the eighth wonder. Travel magazines romanticize this thing, I'm telling you. And you have tour companies that market it as a dream safari. Me, I'm here for the fun. I'm here for everyone that went and watched the wild beast migration. I'm happy for you if this is something that you've always wanted to do. I'm happy that a dream was achieved. But like coffee and tea, behind this whole sculpture, there is a wound. Because the Maasai Mara is not just about animals. It is about land. And that land tells of stories of injustice. For decades, the Maasai, the very people whose culture gives the Maasai Mara its identity. Because why do you call it the Maasai Mara? These same people have been dispossessed. The Mara has been fenced out, and they've been pushed aside in the name of conservation and tourism. Large chunks of land that once fed their cattle were grabbed, leased, or converted into private conservancies that enrich the outsiders. Today, more than 200 lodges and camps are scattered across the Maasai Mara ecosystem. But ask yourself, who owns them? Me, I have not seen a Nyambura lodge. I have not seen a Muga's. No, I have not seen. The biggest and most profitable lodges are in the hands of foreign investors and Nairobi elites. See, you guys, you know who in this country also owns in the Maasai Mara. You guys, you know, right? So, here again, you have profits flowing abroad and to your local elites here. Well, the Maasai, the original custodians of that land, are reduced to low-paying jobs as guards, dancers, or drivers. That is why you see tourists when they come, they love when they watch the Maasai go, no, you know, and then you drop your $2, $3 there. Me, sometimes I look at these people and I wonder the courage they have. Because this used to be our ancestors' land, and me, I have to come now and dance for you so you can give me peanuts in the name of tips. Eh? You know, I had this conversation with a Kenyan tour company owner, and they were telling me, hey, Lynn, it is bad. Even as we've been completely squeezed out. You have park fees that have shot up. Park fees have actually shot up. I asked Valerie yesterday just to check for me, how much is it to enter the Mara right now? Oh, it's peak season, so it's 3K. 3K to enter. Hey, 3K, you know, ni how many kilos of goat meat? I can eat 3K in a week. Huh? But they'll tell you, you know, for foreign tourists, we are charging $100 per person per day. Then we will be proud. But then you forget, to big international companies, they can deal with that. But small Kenyan operators, they will struggle. Even you, if you have once dreamed of seeing the migration itself, you will find that price beyond reach. Tourism in the Maasai Mara is sold to the world as Kenya's pride. Yet Kenyans themselves are locked out. How many Kenyans did you see during the wild beast migration? How many? And that is why this whole narrative of it's tourism day, so we are letting Kenyans enter the parks for free. Those are our lions, our elephants. Actually, you forget that we used to live with those lions and the elephants. We did not need to pay anything to exist with those animals. But now you guys, you've come and you've romanticized the whole thing. And now, you know, there are places in these parks where even the car you have, they have to check the car you have before they even let you in. So you and your small Suzuki Alto or Mazda, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Yeah, I know it's off-road, etc., etc. But it is because they know from the word go. Me getting a nice tour car, I need like 25K for that experience, you know, the tour cars, the tour vans. Then I will feel our team here at LNN and we go out. And then all of us, we gotta pay 3K. And then you've rented the car, you gotta pay entrance fee, and then that car itself will also be charged a fee to enter. And then there's the conservation lie. We've spoken about it here on this platform. Writers like Mordecai and Baria in the big conservation lie, they have exposed how conservation has been weaponized against Africans. In their books, they argue that we've been taught to romanticize tourism and conservation, for us to see it as pure, you know, very noble and untouchable. But behind these glossy brochures, conservation in the Mara often means one thing: keep the animals, remove the people. I mean, haven't you heard them speak about how tourists sometimes complain they are seeing a lot of people and not the animals? You are in my land. That is the land our ancestors left. You came here to see a lion, but I'm sorry, I'm also here. So I might be an eyesore, but you'll have to see me too, and then you can go see the lion. What is this whole thing about protecting the wilderness, but erasing the community, you know, the communities that existed with these animals? This whole conservation BS is a story where the Maasai are painted as intruders in their own land. And by the way, our freedom is not freedom if there is no freedom of the Maasai people. No, give them back their land. We cannot continue having here foreign NGOs and investors wearing the crown of the saviors of nature. No, that nature was okay the way it was. Actually, the Maasai Mara disgusts me. I will never even go there. And that's a fact. Because there's nothing in it that convinces me that this is for the betterment of our people. No, we've reduced these people to dancers, to wristband sellers, to when you're having your dinner in the bush, they come and dance for you in our own land. Now, you gotta give it to these people. Me, that is level of patience I don't have. And that is the real Maasai Mara, a place where the world sees wildebeest running free, but the people who lived there for centuries are chained by poverty, land injustices, and exclusion. A place where conservation and tourism are sold as gifts to Kenyans, but the profits flow into foreign pockets. No, we cannot continue romanticizing tourism while our people suffer. And at this point, I have to remind you, if you've not, go and read what? The Big Conservation Lie. Just go buy this book and read it. This book is an awakening to so many people. Please be a part of this awakening. And here I did not even touch on the money. Because again, they'll go and tell us, tourism brings a lot of money in this country. Tourism is so toxic in this country that there is a story we will air maybe soon of this lady, Julie Ward, who was killed in the Mara, but that whole story stayed hidden because the country was not ready for the shame. The country was not ready to have the tourism industry go down. No. The lies that were made, even from our own Torei teacher Arap Moi, the late, they are crazy. Let me tell you, people will lie in this country to protect tourism and sell tourism to foreigners. And this is why when you go to places like the Mara, etc., even when you go to those restaurants, oh boy, you'll wonder, am I in the right place? Am I actually in the right place? Because it's not designed with Kenyans in mind. And even when they go and lie that, the money Lynn is good, I don't know, even Kenyans in my circle who own anything in the Mara. And even the people who have spoken about, people who operate tour companies, they are struggling. They are like, Lynn, the competition is just so bad. As we rely on maybe taking local people, but the moment you tell them the entrance is 3K, they'll tell you, please, can't, won't, shan't. No. And then now, as we wind up, you go back and look at this person that is receiving these gifts, Macron. Let's just be clear. Macron is not just a French president. He's the face of a country that has made billions by exploiting Africa for generations, while giving back only crumbs. Let's start with the money. Today, you have more than 10 African countries that still use the CFA franc. This is a currency designed in 1945 by France. These nations are required to keep a portion of their foreign reserves in accounts controlled by the French Treasury. So what does that mean? It means while Africa works, France controls the purse. Monetary independence is spoken about in speeches, but in reality, Paris still has its hand on our resources. And here's the paradox. France will go and say, you know what, we are giving aid to Africa and act like a savior. Actually, in 2021, Africa received nearly 2.9 billion euros in French bilateral assistance. In 2024, France's total official development assistance stood at 15.1 billion USD. Now, on the surface, that sounds generous. France is helping Africa. Actually, France cares about Africa people, but compare that to what flows the other way. To what flows there in terms of energy, mining, agriculture. This country pulls far more out of Africa each year than it gives back in aid. Analysts estimate, that over the decades, France has extracted hundreds of billions of dollars worth of resources, and they continue profiting from this continent. You know, when we sat here with DJ Bokali and he was talking us about how Niger powers France, you know, Niger's uranium powers France. France relies on Niger's uranium to power its nuclear plants and keep the lights on in its own cities. But then if the money was so good, because again, it's who gets the money? If this was so good, why is it that Niger remains one of the most poorest countries in Africa? Why? With millions living without electricity, but it's powering the whole Paris. Or look at Gabon or Congo. You have French giant oil companies there. You guys, you know them. But again, local communities will still struggle with poverty and pollution. And you know, guys, this cannot continue happening. We cannot continue rejoicing in what people tell us this is Africa's pride. Tourism, tea, coffee, minerals. Well, the profits go down to multinationals. We have to invest in value addition. We have to make sure that tourism, even if we say, okay, yeah, let's actually take a risk with tourism, guys. But we have to make sure that we are the ones who are actually benefiting. Have you seen the people building resorts in Mara? Please name me one local company. And if it's local, then it's just local because they need you to think it's local. Or even if it's local, it's owned by the elites in this country. So, how is this your pride? How is this your pride? You know, this person even told me Tanzania, just during this wild beast migration, they made a whole business sense compared to Kenya. Why? Because they have maybe they have their things together. Maybe the park fees, I don't know, you guys check that for me and tell me about it. Because Tanzania is also another country we gotta address when it comes to land injustices, especially of the Maasai people. So yes, this whole moment here between Macron and Ruto looks like pride, but in reality, this should actually be a reminder of the imbalance. Africa will still give and give and give and give. France and other countries will receive and receive and receive and receive. And then you have your president there smiling through the cycle. How are you going to give to someone a pack of coffee, tea, a statue of wild beast migration, and you don't know these things are not even working in your own country? What stupidity is that, guys? Until Africa addresses value addition, until Africa learns to benefit from their natural resources, A to Z, we are not going anywhere. And that is why we think it's pride when we are there. You know, this Kenya tea. Have you heard of this Kenya tea? I think Macron even threw those things to the garbage. What is this? Maybe after he was like, these stupid Africans. Like you went all the way to New York carrying our own tea and coffee, and you did not ask yourself as a president what you should have done to make it better for our people. These conversations stress me sometimes, guys. Because even when the maths don't math, the maths ain't mathing at all. So let's have a conversation on Africa's resources. Let us be open about it. This is you handing our resources again to our former colonizers. There's no pride in it. But I always say I could be wrong. Maybe you guys, you have a different way of viewing things. Let me know in the comment section. Honestly, I look forward to the comment section because I get an idea of the kind of community we are building together. So I really appreciate it. So let me know on the comment section what you guys think, and then we can take up this conversation from there. And if you have actually grown up with a mom or a dad or parents who are farmers, coffee tea, let me know how much that has actually been a benefit. Because I know, yeah, this has helped a couple of us, but I want you to know, your parents could be earning $5 plus from that kg of coffee, cherries. They could actually make that much. But no, people don't want them to be enlightened. Because the moment now we start saying, no, I think this coffee of mine, let me take it to the market the way I take my tomatoes and avocados. No. No. But that's that on that conversation. I saw it and I was like, man, that is why when we stand in this UN assembly and you have your presidents giving these speeches, no one takes them seriously. Because you'll be there acting like Otero Jack Bauer. But at home, you're just clueless. You're actually just a clueless president in your own home country. Don't let anyone lie to you that coffee and tea is the pride of Kenya. No, follow the money and you will see why this is one big lie. Again, that's it from me. Share your thoughts on the comment section. I see we are heading to 1.41 million subscribers. How? I don't know. That is one thing I don't take for granted. So I appreciate you guys subscribing and I appreciate you showing up. Truly appreciate you. So if you've watched this video until the end and maybe you have forgotten to subscribe, please subscribe. It goes a long way to making sure that, you know what, this work reaches a lot of people. But if you also love this video and you want to share it to your loved ones, you can share the link. It will also go a long way. Also, I want to say thank you to everyone that is contributing towards independent journalism. We see the M-Pesas, we see the pay bill, we see the PayPal. So we really do appreciate. So if you want to contribute towards these projects, the research, it's very intensive sometimes, but we try our best to make sense of it all. So feel free to use our M-Pesa, our paybill, or even our PayPal. Details are on the screen. My name is Lynn Ngugi. If there's anything you can't share with me on the comment section, find me at info@lnn.digital and we will definitely have a conversation there when time allows. See you guys on the next one. This has been... Guys, spare some time and go watch Joshua J. Karanja's Katiba Ninja. A lot of legal knowledge right there. But this has been Muga. This has been the Lynn Ngugi Show.